Our public authorities are now ready to present. I will open the floor immediately to Ms. Heeweon Lee. So I will make you presenter, and the floor is yours. You have to unmute. I can unmute you, simply. And you are unmuted. Very good.
Hello, I am Heeweon Lee. I'm the Deputy MPC of KIAT, the National Funding Agency for International R&D in Korea. It is my pleasure to have this opportunity to present the funding rules of South Korea for Eureka cluster projects today. I will start the funding details for Eureka cluster projects. KIAT can fund selected Korean consortiums the maximum 500 million won, which is approximately 370,000 euros per year for up to total 3 years. And the funding type is grant. For Korean participants, all types of companies, including large enterprises, universities, and research institutes, can participate in the consortium and receive public funding. However, in the domestic consortium, participation of a Korean private enterprise is mandatory. Korean company must have been in operation for at least 1 year based on the date of the application deadline. Last but not least, the company is required to have a corporate R&D center accreditation issued by the Korean government, the Korea Industrial Technology Association. This chart demonstrates the ratio of public funding and private matching funds in Korea. The total cost for the project for each participant is comprised of public funding and private matching funds. If you see the ratios, the public funding ratios differ by the company size. The larger a company is, the more its private matching funds are required. Also, the cash ratio of private matching funds also increases according to the company size. However, universities and research institutes are exempt from private matching fund requirements, so it's only paid if it is necessary. This is a diagram of the Eureka cluster application and selection process. When the project is labeled by the cluster committee, then the consortium should prepare for national submissions. It is important that in Korea, only projects that have been labeled as a CELTIC-NEXT cluster projects are eligible for national submissions and can proceed to domestic application in Korea. For participating organizations, after proposal submission to the cluster committee, please contact and notify KIAT, the national funding body of South Korea. Domestic application period is twice a year, and the domestic application submission deadline this year is April 30 and September 30. In addition to the Eureka project application, Korean participants have to submit a national project application written in Korean online via the Korean application system, which is the KPAS. Also, if you want to discover Korean research partners, there are 3 partner matching platforms available. Firstly, the B2B Match site. It is a quick and easy way to meet potential cooperation partners. Secondly, the Enterprise Europe Network site. You can find the local contact points in South Korea to discover Korean R&D partners. Last but not least, if you have further questions, you can also contact the KIAT Europe office. For more information, please first check the details on the national call text, which is available on our KIAT website. And if you have further questions about the national application process or eligibility requirements, please send an email to me to the following email address, which is leejen@kiat.or.kr. you can contact the platforms accessing the site or sending an email as written in the chart. Thank you for listening, and thank you for cooperating with South Korea.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Lee. So I will now ask Ms. Camille Taye, just one moment. Okay, my computer is blocked. Sorry. Okay, now should be able to change the role to presenter.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me. Can you see my screen, full screen?
Yes, it is starting. Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thanks for having me. My name is Camille and I work at BPIfrance. So I'll be your contact point whenever you want to apply to CELTIC-NEXT. For French participants, there are two types of funding, depending on the size and characteristics of your project. So the first criteria to have in mind to distinguish the two is the cumulative French budget of your project. If it is under 4 million euros, then your only possible funding option is called Innovation Aid or Aide à Innovation. So there is no minimum budget. Your consortium must have at least one French firm. And to be eligible, you need to be an SME or a large company of up to 2,000 FTEs, that is to say employees. And your project must last up to 3 years. For this kind of aid, academic partners are not eligible to participate, but they can participate as subcontractors. The aid amount is between 50,000 and 3 million euros, and it takes the form of a repayable advance or a innovation loan up to 80%. The second funding option is called IDEMO, and it is only reserved for projects with a cumulative French budget of over 4 million euros. You need to have one French SME or company of up to 2,000 employees inside your consortium, and with a maximum of 6 French participants. And your project can include an industrial R&D phase and or an experimental development phase. And the aid is going to be a mix of grants and repayable advance, depending on your type of project. And for this option, academic partners are eligible for this funding. So now for the process. So first of all, we really recommend you to contact our team in order to be sure you are eligible. And we're going to have a discussion with you, with your chargé d'affaires innovation, with your main contact point at BPIfrance. And we're going to work together to study your potential eligibility and also to advise you for your projects. Then you will have to both prepare your application to CELTIC-NEXT as a consortium, but also prepare your national funding application to get funding from BPIfrance in case your project succeeds. Then with the deadline of the project proposal of CELTIC-NEXT, you need to submit your project proposal on the CELTIC-NEXT platform. And at the same time, you need to submit your national application to BPIfrance. Then your project is going to be assessed both by the experts of clusters, CELTIC-NEXT, and by BPIfrance, essentially to check your financial eligibility to receive a funding from us. And that's it for me. Let me just show you our contacts. If you have any question, I will also put the email address in the chat. And we also have now a dedicated website that should also respond to your potential answers or concerns. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Camille, for your presentation for France. And now we will switch to Miss Rita Silva from ANI Portugal. Rita, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation, for the possibility to share our eligibility and funding conditions. Let me share my screen. Are you already?
Yes, we see your screen, but we see your presenter, screen, not the
not the slideshow.
You have to change the monitor.
Let's see if I can. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this correct now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So let's jump straight to the funding conditions in Portugal. In our country, the funding for Eureka projects, so all of the Eureka instruments, is funded through a national call, which is operations for industrial R&D at the European level. So it is here the Portuguese name. This call is open until permanently receiving applications with Portuguese participants, applications of projects that have received the Eureka label. And this call welcomes Eureka label projects in all instruments, including, of course, the Eureka clusters. This call will be open until the end of September 2024, and immediately after that, there will be another call opening, so it will be consecutively. The type of funding is grants, both for companies and R&D institutions, and eligible entities are SMEs or small mid-cap companies that can partner with research entities, so universities, and other non-entrepreneurial entities from both continental Portugal and also non-entrepreneurial entities from the islands of Azores and Madeira. They are also eligible for funding. So large companies are not eligible in Portugal for funding unless they join in self-funding mode. The funded projects, of course, must include industrial research activities or experimental development activities that will lead to the creation of new products, new processes or systems, or the introduction of significant improvements in existing products, processes, or systems. So as specific eligibility criteria, the projects must fit into the national and or regional smart specialization strategies. This has to be fundamented when you apply your national application. You have to make evidence that the project was approved within Eureka, so that the label was awarded to your project. And you have the Portuguese entities, of course, need to have a balanced economic and financial situation. And it is mandatory to have at least one Portuguese SME or one small mid-cap company in the consortium. the companies that participate must comply with a financial autonomy ratio of 15% if they are SMEs or small mid-caps. And for companies that are active for less than 1 year at the date of the national application, they will then have to demonstrate the capacity to fund the project with own capital equal to or greater than 20% of their eligible costs. So there are some additional documents that are required for submitting the national application. And these are, so always after being awarded with the Eureka label, the Portuguese entities, when applying nationally, must, of course, fill in the national forms for application within the call that I mentioned before. They should upload the copy of the original international application. They should upload the copy of the final international evaluation report of the project. So you should upload the final assessment report of the CELTIC cluster to the project where you participate. And you should submit a draft of the international consortium agreement, and of course, also a national technical annex that is focused on the Portuguese entities' activities and budget required for implementing the project. These are the eligible costs, which are in general the normal costs that are foreseen for R&D projects. And we have an overheads fixed rate of 7%, and that is applied to all direct eligible costs, including subcontracting costs. This is a table where you can check what are the co-funding, the average co-funding rates that you will get depending on whether you are a micro or small company, a medium company, a small mid-cap company, or a research organization or university. So depending on the company's dimension, you will have on average a certain percentage of co-funding. And also if you foresee cooperation between Portuguese entities and the wide dissemination of R&D results, you can get funding bonuses, can apply to those and so improve your co-funding rate. Research organizations or universities are funded at 85% of their eligible costs. And it is very important for entities that are located or foresee their investments in the region of Lisbon. Their maximum co-funding rate is of 40% of eligible costs. So this is a region that is limited in the co-funding rates in these projects. And this is all on my side. I'm happy to meet with all interested potential participants, Portuguese participants in CELTIC projects. So do contact us. It's very important that you do so, and we'll explain and clarify all your doubts. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rita, for your presentation and the conditions of the national calls in Portugal. Thanks a lot. So now I will ask Ms. Rinta-Erkkilä to present for Finland.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure that you already see and hear.
Yes.
So, hi everyone. My name is Hanna Rinta-Erkkilä, and I'm responsible for Eureka's national project coordinator here in Business Finland. So Business Finland's primary aim is to support the growth and development of the Finnish companies. But I skip this slide and go straight to our funding rules. So in Finland, Eureka projects are funded in Business Finland, and funding is available for SME, mid-caps and large companies, and for universities or research organization funding is available in collaboration with the companies. So the eligibility criteria are the same as in national calls, and they also compete with each other. So there is no specific euro limit or project lengths up to 3 years, and the concrete business outlook is expected to be generated in return for the RDI investment. So Business Finland's financing is paid afterwards on the basis of the reports and cost statements, with the exception of the first installment paid in loan financing. So if there is a university or research organization involved, the funding tool is co-innovation. Companies can also apply funding for individuals, but the university cannot. So the funding level for research project is 80% in CELTIC-NEXT type international collaboration cases. So the joint action must include at least one research organization and 3 companies, of which at least 2 have applied for funding for their R&D projects from Business Finland. So the composition of the Finnish consortium is crucial viewpoint, and strong medium and mid-cap size company involvement is highly recommendable. So it is recommended to make a clear and goal-oriented work package structure in the project plan, in which the cooperation contribution of all participants is described. I would pay particular attention to bringing practical insight into the project, as well as its impact on the participating companies and the market. So work packages should be clear, and each company should have its role with them. Business Finland will focus on assessing the Finnish consortium only. And in addition, companies and research institutes have their own detailed project plan, which clearly show participation in joint project work packages and the project's work resource plan and possible activities outside the joint project. But Business Finland can provide funding for SME and mid-cap size companies seeking significant growth in export market by granting aid or loan. Grants can be granted for critical research activities, but that do not yet result in finished product or services. So SME research project can be maximum 50% of total eligible costs, and for mid-caps and larger companies 40%. And loan is intended for your company's development or piloting projects. Project may include both research and development, and in this case, Business Finland will assess the project content as a whole and considering the different nature of the activities. So even if a project has appropriate total funding, resource and plans, the granting of funding also requires that the project could not be carried out at all without any funding, or it could be carried out much more slowly or on smaller scale. Each funding evaluation is made individually for each company, and please contact me for details. We are prepared for the application deadline, so we are handling the project quite smoothly. So I'm linking here the contact information for Hanna Nurmi, who is responsible for handling funding in Business Finland, and especially in CELTIC-NEXT cases. So please feel free to contact either me or Hanna and on this matter. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hanna, for Business Finland. Now I will pass the floor to Miss Elisabeth Frisch from Luxembourg. Hello, Elisabeth.
Hello. 1 second, share.
Very good. We see and we hear.
So, hello, happy to be here. I'm Elisabeth Frisch from Luxembourg. In Luxembourg, the system is a little bit different. So the national funding body is the Ministry of Economy. So the ultimate decision lies with them. But the national coordinator is Luxinnovation, where I work. So we support companies in preparing the application to then submit to the Ministry of Economy. And we are also there to guide you through the whole CELTIC-NEXT or Eureka in general process. Sorry. So there are several main criteria to benefit from financial aid in Luxembourg. I'm going to go through them briefly. The first one is to have a co-financing capacity. So based on the size of the project and the type of project, the aid rate will vary, and the rest of the financing for the project needs to come from the company itself. So we're going to verify that and also guide you to define it. The second one is economic impact. So we are looking to create substance in Luxembourg. By this we mean that employees from the Luxembourgish entity should work on the project, so they should be based in Luxembourg. The third one is quite easy. So innovation, we are looking for something new or improved. So a product, process, or service. And the last one is that we are going to look at the size of your company, whether it's not in financial difficulty. And the project should, of course, not start before you submit the application to the Ministry of Economy. In R&D projects, which is the aid scheme that we use for CELTIC-NEXT project, we are also looking for technological challenges that will be treated by the employees of the Luxembourgish company and their partners, of course. As I already mentioned, so for Eureka projects, CELTIC-NEXT projects, we're going to work with R&D aid schemes. Here you can see the aid intensities. As for my colleagues before me, we have experimental development and industrial research. Most Eureka projects are going to have a focus more on experimental development, but this doesn't mean that we cannot combine it with industrial research. So the aid rate varies between 25 and 70% actually. But there's always going to be a collaboration bonus of 15% because you're working with partners on these projects. Eligible costs are, of course, personal costs. So the people that are working on the project, utilization costs of equipment, material costs, special costs. So this is subcontracting. And we are going to add 25% of overheads, general costs, to the personal costs. Exactly. So in Luxembourg, I don't have a slide on that, but I'm just going to briefly mention it. University and research institutes are currently not eligible for funding for CELTIC-NEXT projects. If there are changes, we will publish it, of course, and you will be informed. Projects can be submitted all year long, so there's no call as in other countries. And we highly encourage you to contact us in advance. So here you have all my contact information. I will also share my email in the chat. So if you have any other questions, do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Elisabeth, for Luxembourg and Luxinnovation. So now we will listen to Mr. Andrzej from Poland, NCBR. So just for me to make you presenter.
Hello. Now let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So pleasure to meet you, Andrzej, Wajs, the project coordinator at the National Center for Research and Development at the Department for International Cooperation. I'm the Eureka National Contact Point. Some basic facts about our organization. We've been running for almost 17 years now. We're the largest R&D funding agency in this part of Europe. This is the amount of money in zlotys that we have assigned to various research performing organizations and enterprises in the past 15 years. This is what we do. We do a lot of things bilaterally, multilaterally. We cooperate with various other entities in Poland. Our annual budget is usually around 1 billion euros. And let's go to the gist of it. We do not have a preferred sort of topics within the applications to Eureka or CELTIC-NEXT. In principle, we support every project with Polish participation, striving to fund as many as possible. However, we are not able to take a funding decision ourselves on the basis of a CELTIC-NEXT labeled full project proposal. So even if you get a green light from Celtic, this does not mean you're going to get funding automatically from NCBR, because you still have to submit the domestic application, which I then evaluate formally, and 3 independent external experts evaluate it on merit. We do not have an annually open call. Our window is from this year, it's from 17th of May to the 18th of October. But I think that still leaves space for when you learn that your CELTIC-NEXT proposal has been labeled, for you to submit the domestic application. Next year, it will also probably within a similar time frame, most probably from the 19th of May to 17th of October. The only prerequisite being is a civilian purpose of the project, so nothing security and defense related. However, we are completely thematically agnostic. The allocation for this year is 5 million zlotys, which is approximately 1 million euros, slightly above that sum. We accept SMEs applying individually or as members of consortia, whereas academia and large entrepreneurs, however, they are eligible for funding, but they may not apply individually. They can only be members of consortia which comprise SMEs. The maximum amount of funding for a single applicant, so an SME in Poland, is 750,000 zlotys, whereas for a consortium, so an SME on at least one more entity, so another SME and a university research institute or a larger enterprise, is 1.5 million zlotys. I also recommend our partner Sergio's tool, our sort of matchmaking, R&D matchmaking office, which is called Pathfinder. There are ads from Polish entities and foreign entities can advertise themselves there as well. So I very much recommend you to take a look and perhaps register and advertise yourselves. These are the funding schemes. So universities and research institutes, regardless of whether they perform research or development works in the project, they are entitled to 100% of funding. Micro and small enterprises, 80% for research, 70% for development works. Medium size, 80% for research, 60% for development works. And last but not least, large enterprises, 75% for research and 50% of funding for development works. Thank you so much. This is the contact information for me. I can paste my email onto the chat as well. So again, we recommend, I recommend very much to contact me before you submit your domestic application. And for now, fingers crossed for your successfully applying into the CELTIC-NEXT. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Andrzej. Now I will welcome Mr. Oscar Fernandez Moyano for CDTI Spain. Oscar, the floor is yours. Normally. You are muted, Oscar.
Yeah, yes. Hello everyone again. Sorry. As I was saying, my name is, as Xavier said, Oscar Fernandez, and I am the Eureka National Project Coordinator in Spain. My colleague Juana, who is the person in charge of Celtic Cluster, couldn't make it this time, but I will give you her contact details after the presentation. No worries. I will just take care of this presentation to share with you the main features of the Spanish funding and also the procedures that we have here in Spain. So first, just to explain, like some of my colleagues did, a little bit about the CDTI, which is the National Innovation Agency in Spain, where I belong to, and it's a quite experienced agency. Of course, we depend on the ministry dealing with the innovation. We change from time to time from one ministry to another, but always we are under the ministry that takes care of technological development and innovation, and this time is the one that you can see here in the slide and also in the logo. And the main goal of our agency is basically to help the Spanish companies, mainly because we are focusing our funding tools to Spanish companies, and help them to be more competitive in this global and competitive world. And we do it mainly through the funding of R&D or innovation projects. To do this, we have one single headquarters. We don't have regional branches. In contrast to this, what we have is in Spain, there are also not only the national agency, but regional agencies, and we have agreements with all of them trying to complement both our funding on our side and the side, and trying to be coordinated and synchronized with them. But we have our headquarters in Madrid, and we are now close to 350 people in the staff. But it's not our only building, let's say, or office, because we have office abroad, not in Spain. But we have a number of offices around the world, trying to cover most of the countries where we have different cooperation or initiatives, covering not only the country where they are staying, but also the region close to that country. So we cover a lot of countries with these 10 different offices that we have, and we can also give support to the different companies or entities in Spain going to these countries. So what we do, as I said, we mainly use funding tools to help our companies. The main message I would like to launch here is that we are completely open in terms of technologies or sector markets. So we can support all type of projects in this regard. We don't really check if the technology is covering this or that specific part of the one area. We can support all of them, and we do it mainly checking both the capacity of the company and both the project itself when we do it, and we do it through an evaluation in parallel. On one side, as I said, we check the what we say the technological evaluation. We check the project itself, and we check the state of the art. We check the technology is well advanced, but also we check the capacity for that project of the company. We check the market that is behind, the risk, and also some other aspects like socioeconomic impact, gender perspective, sustainability, blah, blah, blah. And we check what I say is the company, and you can see as the financial, because part of the money that we are going to give to them is a credit, is a loan. So they will have to pay back part of them. So we check that the company has the resources needed to develop the project, the parts that they are not going to obtain from public money on one side, but also that they are going to pay back the money that we are going to provide to them in a period of time that I will explain later. So we do all this assessment, this due diligence for all the companies that are requesting funding to CDTI, and mainly with this idea that we are supporting technological development. We are not focusing on other activities, but mainly technological development and innovation in some of our funding tools. So for the specific case of the Celtic cluster, what we use is one of our tools, which has this name in Spanish. And one of the also main message I would like to launch to you is that we have unlimited budget for this type of project. So we can fund all the good projects, all the labeled project by Celtic that are fulfilling our criteria can be funded by our tool. We don't have a specific budget. We use our general budget, which is around 1 billion euros per year. So there is enough money. If you want to have a project with a Spanish company, there will be money for the project if the activities are, as I explained before, technological development, innovation activities. So in our case, it's important that the beneficiary has to be a company. The funding tool is dedicated to this type of entities, and the universities and the technological centers can be subcontracted. If they want to become a partner, they can do it by self-funding. This is an option. But if they want or they need really to get money, the only way will be to be subcontracted by the company, and one of the cost, the eligible cost, is this subcontracting. In terms of limits, the only one is the minimum limit of the budget of the Spanish company. If there are several Spanish companies, the minimum budget for each of them has to be 175,000 euros, and the project duration is the typical from 1 year to 3 years. And as I said, there are some activities that are not eligible for funding. Typical things like exploitation, dissemination activities, these are not eligible for funding. What type of funding we provide? As I explained, it's part of them is a loan, so it's a kind of mix and a loan. It's actually a credit. We usually reach 85% of the eligible budget, and part of this credit that has an interest fee of and it has to be paid back in 10 or 15 years. Part of that credit has not to be paid back, so it's some kind of grant, and is around 1/4 of the eligible budget. Depending on the size of the company, it can be higher or not, but take this idea that 1/4 will not have to be repaid. And what we do is we can give an advancement payment to the company at the beginning of the project, and then around every year, every 18 months, we go check the developments and release the money that has been already spent, and then we start the next phase of the project. So it's a checking system that we have every X months, around 1 year, 1 year and a half. All the details, you have it there in this link. And as you can see, the eligible costs are the typical ones: personnel, depreciation of equipment, subcontracting materials, and then some additional expenses that we also accept, like some audits that we request, some reports, and also even some management cost. You can check the details in the website. In terms of the process, we have an open call for this funding, but we try to synchronize the process with the phase or the process from CELTIC, from the cluster. So when they close in May, what we will do is we will contact the Spanish companies, and we will tell them that they have to submit the application not only to CELTIC, they were the main partner, but the Spanish partners. One single application has to be submitted through our portal, through our system. And we will usually give 2 weeks to do this. They will have to fill in a small web form, include the full project proposal, and an additional document, which is very important, because it's the one where they are going to explain the activities of the Spanish companies that are there. If there are several, they will have to upload several documents, one per each company. And it's the way that we are going to pre-check that the company can get money in Spain. So it's a 2-3 pages document. It has not to be very well detailed, but it has to be completely focused on the Spanish tax. This is very important, so we can then provide a good feedback to the cluster, because, as you know, during May, June, there will be the evaluation and the leveling of the projects. A part of the feedback will be given by us, depending on this eligibility of the funding in Spain, in our case. So for those projects that are going to get the label, what will happen is that we will generate, based on the initial application they provided to us in our platform, we will generate funding application to all of them. And they will have like 20 days to reply with the complete information. This time will have to be a really a large report or large document explaining the Spanish task, because I explained before that is in the first phase it was like 2-3 pages. The report, the document that we are going to request for the funding application will be bigger. It has to be detailed, all the aspects of the Spanish activities, the personnel, hours per work packages, etc., etc. You know very well how it works. So that one will be the main report, and the one that we will use to evaluate the funding in Spain according to our criteria, typical ones, as I briefly explained before, on the technological level of the project, the market size, etc., etc. So some recommendations to finalize the presentation. First, at international level, we always try to suggest to the Spanish partners to find balanced consortium where all the countries involved have more or less the same weight in the project. And also we tell them that it's good to check not only the financial capacity of the partners, but also the financial condition in each country in advance, to know how this is going to work, what are going to be the different requirements for the different countries. Also, one suggestion that we always highlight is try to identify a consortium, a sub-consortium leader per country to make coordination easier. But this is up to, of course, up to the consortium. And then at national level, as I said, we are, and the rest of our colleagues are funding R&D activities. So this is where all the details must be provided. We always, for the Spanish companies or participants, we always suggest them to be the leaders, if it's not possible of the whole projects, to try to be the leaders in some of the work packages, some of the tasks, because this will give them better capacities for the future, not only for this project, but it will enhance, as I say, the abilities in this type of activities. Some of the companies are well known at CDTI, so because they already submitted R&D projects. So one of the things also that we advise is that it is important to differentiate the new project compared to the existing submitted projects, because sometimes there is some overlapping, and it's important to make sure that this is not happen. And also, we are speaking about R&D, but there are some consideration that has to be taken into account in our evaluation. Is done this already mentioned, like not only the market, which is of course by default, but also things like the gender perspective. This is also important. Anyway, for all these things, the most important thing and the main message is that you get in contact with us. As I said, my colleague Juana is the person that is responsible for these clusters. She's really sorry not to be here, but you have the contact in case you are not Spanish and you want to get details from our side. You have the contact data. The Spanish participant, of course, you are more than welcome to ask all the questions needed to go ahead with your proposal in Celtic. And that's it from my side. So I give the floor again back to Xavier.
Thanks a lot, Oscar, for CDTI Spain. Now I will invite Ms. Marlene Häggström for Vinnova, Sweden, to take the floor and present the conditions for Sweden.
I will see. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
I want to share my PowerPoint, but I can't do that. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Let's see.
Very good.
Actually, stop the video because I have a little bit of a bad line. You can hear me and you can see my screen.
We can hear you and see your screen.
That's perfect. So I'm good to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm Marlene Häggström from Sweden, from Vinnova, which is the Swedish national agency for innovation. And I am the person in Sweden responsible for our participation in Celtic. And I want to talk about the Swedish conditions. I lost my... So, the Swedish funding rules that we have that we're going through here is that the consortium shall be industry-driven with a good balance between large companies, SMEs, and academia, and research institutes. And the effort from the participating companies must be at least 60% from companies of the Swedish consortium total work effort. At least one, we have this condition that a small company as SME must participate in the project, and this SME must have at least 1 million Swedish crowns in net sales, and that is a requirement, and report that in the last annual report, and also have at least 3 full-time employees equivalents. The funding rates that they also in Sweden, they are different depending on the size of the organization or companies. The SMEs can have a maximum 50% of our eligible costs. Large enterprises can have maximum 30%, and university and institutes up to 100% of their cost. However, the total cost and the total budget is that Vinnova will fund 50% of total. So that is important that the consortium count for that. And the level we can fund, we have a maximum now of 50 million Swedish crowns per project, from 5 to 15 million Swedish crowns. And I have got quite a few questions latest today, but also over the last few weeks about that the people who have been involved with us from Vinnova in Sweden before, that we used to have an extended abstract. And I just want to confirm what I responded by email and to everyone that this year, 2024, we will not require the extended abstract because it's very short time from today until the last application date from CELTIC on May 3rd. So we wouldn't have time to evaluate them and give good feedback for the projects. So for anyone else that wonders, we will not require that this year as we have done previously. So follow the CELTIC process, and your last day for application is by 3rd of May. And then we will, in parallel to the CELTIC reviewers, evaluate the CPPs and do that during May, and be done by June the 5th. And of course, you have the label notification by the 7th of June from CELTIC. After this, for the projects that get the labels, we will in Sweden and from Vinnova require the national application. That is, we have an invitation for that by email. After this, then we send out how you can do that. And you have the Swedish summer time to do that until the August 27. And then we have, of course, this evaluation of the national applications in September, October, and hope to have a funding decision by November. Some criteria for the national application. I know that now you focus until 3rd of May on the CPPs. However, so you of course want to have the national applications rules already here. They differ a little bit. We look at the potential, and that's a weight of 40%, and that has the project potential to lead and to increase competitiveness and growth of participating Swedish companies and organizations. So that is 40%. You have the feasibility, and that we wait for 30%, and that is the credibility of the project plan and budget and so on. And then we have the partners in the consortium. Now we look at the Swedish consortium, of course, that weighs 20%. And it also includes that the project must be industry-driven and have active participation and commitment from the companies. And also we look at the quality in the projects, and that weighs 10%. So it's important to know that already now for when you're doing the CPP. And we have some, you will get the presentations later on, so you can get the more information on the detailed assessment criteria also. And we have the link. We have already opened up a call page in Sweden, and there is a Eureka site, because we participate also in other Eureka clusters, of course, and we have common rules for those that I suggest everyone to read carefully. So and the contact details, I am Marlene, and you can contact me with any questions you might have. And that's basically easiest if you contact me. If I'm not available, you can also go through Birgitte Osman, who is an administrator, or Sanna Edlund, who is a contact person for Eureka Cluster. But try with me first, and I can hopefully help you with any details. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Marlene, for Vinnova Sweden. Now I will invite Mr. Tom Kirkham from InnovateUK to take the floor. Tom? Very good. We can see your screen, but we can't hear you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yes, no worries.
Thank you. Just put this on slideshow. Hi, everybody. So my name is Tom Kirkham. I'm the Innovation Lead for Future Network Technology at InnovateUK. InnovateUK are part of UKRI, which is our arm's length government body which distributes government funding to support research and innovation across the universities and businesses within the UK. At InnovateUK, as part of that distribution of funding, we're focused purely on sort of business-led innovation, although we do link with the universities, as in some CELTIC-NEXT proposals. Our mission is to basically help the UK businesses gain competitiveness through innovation and grow, and also build multilateral partnerships with other nations. So with CELTIC-NEXT, it's a very important funding scheme for the UK. We're increasing each year the amount of projects that we're supporting via CELTIC-NEXT, and it works nicely with our realignment with Horizon Europe and current national schemes we've got around future networking technologies. So at the moment, our InnovateUK budget for CELTIC-NEXT is around £5 million a year, and we're looking to fund up to £700,000 per project from the UK side. At InnovateUK, we administer the UK competition, and we distribute using the normal UK funding rates, which are 70% for the SMEs and 100% for academia, which is taking 80% as the normal rules. The process, as outlined previously by other national bodies, is that the initial submissions is by CELTIC-NEXT on the 3rd of May, and you have to do that as part of a wider project. And your project will then get ranked, and you'll get notified of the outcomes with respect to being successful or not, or requiring modification. Typically, well, as a rule, you have to have minimum 2 CELTIC-NEXT core members per project, but as we've found, it's better to have more. It's better to have more because it makes the projects more not only interesting, but also the reach of them and the scope of the work sort of wider, but also it minimises the chances of disruption through core partners dropping out. So if you've got a consortium of 7 or 8 and there's issues around some partners not getting the funding on time, you've got a good basis there to get some kind of a project going in the short term. When you get the label from CELTIC-NEXT, you apply via InnovateUK, and we're trying to make that process simpler each time we do it. So we're hoping that it will be a relatively painless process this next time around, and we're looking at probably the labelling will be a couple of months after the 3rd of May deadline. So we'll open the application a couple of months after that, probably in the autumn time. If you get funded, the InnovateUK will support your live project through giving you a monitoring officer and help with exploitation and management of the funding around it. And also we can help with the collaboration agreements. We also, if you're funded, you have to pay the CELTIC-NEXT membership fee. Our areas of interest include Open RAN, implementations of that, and demonstrators and innovations around that kind of technology, particularly around the RIC, using XApps and RApps, such as AI within those services. We're also interested in energy efficient networking, use of open standards, not only through telecoms, but also open source software defining network and software defined implementations of networks, particularly with links to mobile, IoT, fog and edge computing. We're keen on satellite non-terrestrial networking technologies and how they converge with mobile, and also the use of novel chipsets such as novel compound semiconductors. We're not specific on any particular kind of use case, but your use case has to have a route to market. So some examples include smart cities, e-health, industrial 4.0, manufacturing, circular economy use cases. We fund both public deployments of the technology and also private. And as mentioned previously, we're keen on open standards, whether it be contributing to mobile phone standards via bodies like ETSI, but also position on wider open source. Thank you for listening. That's my email address if you'd like any more information. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tom, for your presentation and showing not only the conditions, but also the topics of interest of UK in Celtic.